Hello and welcome to the preview show edition of the Blue Monday podcast, a 3 times weekly show looking into all things Ipswich Town. I'm your host, Richard Woodward, and I'm delighted to welcome back the brilliant Harry from Bath. Harry, great to see you again. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time indeed. Yes, so let you lead off. How are things in sunny climes? Did you have a good time?
Do you know what? My problems were far away. I did manage to watch the West Brom game. I found Leonardo's Sports Bar in Tenerife to watch.
I love it.
I was the only Ipswich fan in there. There were 2 West Brom fans, one in a shirt, which I think football shirt on an away trip is a bit of a cliche. But yeah, so I was keeping myself very low key. But yeah, really enjoyable. Blue skies, sunny. I can't ask for more. And I've come back and it's cold and windy and wet and we're things are not going as well as perhaps we'd hoped.
I was about to say you didn't miss much here. Let's just say.
No, I was thinking maybe I should stay out there. But anyway, how are you doing, Harry? Are you all right?
Oh, very good. Yes, indeed. It's been interesting. I mean, I have one moment of the week which I will come back to at the end of the show, if that's okay. Which is a very amusing non-Ipswich anecdote from the world from which I originate. We'll save that one up for near the end. But no, it's been interesting, just following events really, and it was obviously Bristol City, the great big milestone millstone in the middle of the week, really.
Yeah. Well, a quick one. Firstly, thanks to Ben for stepping in last week. Well, stepping back into his shoes as preview host from last season. I trust that he looked after you and it wasn't too stressful without me.
Safe hands. I was in safe hands.
I love to hear that we're the highbrow part of the Blue Monday package.
Indeed, really.
I take great credit from that.
I loved the question that somebody asked him about, discussing the possible insurrection that we might have against him, and I was just thinking, no, the guy needs a medal for keeping us all under control. I absolutely believe that. What's that game that you play where you're smashing them down, smashing these little
whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole. I think that's what we're like. Yeah.
He's on top of everything, is Captain Ben. So thank you again, Ben. Let's bring some highbrow quality, insightful assessment to Bristol City then in a bit later, Nottingham Forest. Bristol City, Harry, what a kick in the whatsits that was, eh? After Preston and Reading, I think we're unfortunate, weren't we? And there was an argument for a win out of those 2 matches being a fair outcome. West Brom, not great, particularly first half. Yeah. And last night was just a really poor, turgid game, wasn't it? And but scored first, conceded straight away, and then got back in front. And then from then on, it really didn't go well for us, did it?
No.
And such an important game too.
Yeah, it was. I watched it on iFollow at home, but what I always like to do, I was able to listen to the Radio Bristol commentary being based over in the West Country, because you often get the little quiet asides that they'll say just in the passing thoughts, really, just to get their sense of what we were like. This is a Bristol City perspective. We were poor, and Ipswich were even worse than that. Yeah. And they talked as well about the fact that. They talked in a very matter-of-fact way about our fragility after falling behind. We were playing within ourselves and we were too deep. The striker getting isolated. And there was one absolute killer comment. I think it was Keith Milne said it. He was their Mick Mills.
Is he the ex-boss there?
Yeah. He goes a lot. He was always, and they were at the game because you could hear that wonderful fire alarm thing going off in the background. We were chatting. They would ever stop doing. I know they have to do it once, but you don't need to do it twice anyway. But the killer comment they made was, this was when we were 3-2 down. One of them, just Keith Milne said, Ipswich aren't happy committing men forward, and I just my heart sank when I heard that. It really did. Yeah.
And we've seen this a few times as well. The Jackson substitution partway through the second half, when Roberts has kind of run himself into the ground, and it just doesn't work, does it? We suddenly have no threat, and it's aimless punts up the pitch, hoping that he can get in between their centre backs or try and make something happen, running in over the top, and the goal just wasn't going to happen, wasn't it? And again, we get back to this is going to end up being a rant, and we've only just started, but our set pieces as well, Harry. What's the story here? Because how often do we get a set piece and either delivery is poor, or delivery is poor and the opposition break up the other end and have a better chance to score? Have you ever seen? There's a question somewhere, and I will find it. We'll come back to that. Yeah,
to be fair, West Brom are in their latest model. Ben and I chatted about it last week. They've morphed from a kind of sort of a patient playing game to doing teams on the counter, and so they were set up for it. You could almost see them wanting to kick the ball out for a corner kick just to draw us all up the field, so that they could unleash their quartet. But again, against Bristol, who really aren't set piece specialists, you could see us being left vulnerable. There was just that lack of shape, And you could even argue from the goal they scored immediately, their second equaliser, that came from a goal kick is technically a set piece, even though it may not feel like it. In the sense that everybody is in shape, everybody needs to be organised. I mean, Ben was bewailing it, even I would say, in his I've just witnessed match report. Well, really good watch, really good watch. He said, we didn't even have the positional discipline. They kicked off, went straight down the right, put the ball in the middle, and a cushioned volley into the net. You just go, it's we're a proper house of cards. We really are. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
We did the usual ask for questions. We had quite a lot of those. Also, some crumbs of comfort, because I think there needs to be a kind of a collective group hug. I think we tried to do this a few weeks back, didn't we? So we've got a few crumbs of comfort. I just wanted to pause quickly. A question from Stephen, our friend Stephen Moore. What the hell happened to Bart? He always had the odd rick in his game, but yesterday was catastrophic. And Steve's kind of cited some of the coaches that have been and gone. But what's the situation with Bart? I mean, the first goal, the Ipswich Town Bible Twitter account put a looping video together of him flapping that ball into the net for the first one. It's just a shocker. What's going on there, Harry?
I don't know. Bart has always been, to me, we said this before, he's always been a confidence player. That's the one thing I would say, and I feel that he's had the stuffing knocked out of him. I wrote down in one of my notes when I was watching it, because it's hard not to start getting flashes of anger when you look at the way things have unravelled this season, and sometimes you feel it towards Evans, sometimes you feel it towards Hurst. And to be fair, on the Bart one, on Bart's loss of confidence and his loss of form, that if anybody could have mismanaged Bart worse, I'd love to meet them than Hurst did. He really did. I mean, his confidence was destroyed. We didn't have a proper goalkeeping coach, and then the way he dropped him, we don't know what the training regime was like. They're all, it just seems, chopping and changing the defense in front of him all the time. You just checklist how to ruin a player.
Yes.
And so that's why this will come up in between now over the weeks until we get reinforcements in. I'm cutting a lot of the players a huge amount of slack. They didn't create this situation. I really feel it's a lot of it doesn't come down to them. We know that there's a lack of quality. We know that there's a lack of confidence. With some of them it's quality, with some of them it's confidence. I still say with Bart it's confidence. I still remember that save he made against Bristol City. And don't forget, when Bristol came at us in the first 10 minutes of the game, he did make one very decent save. Yeah. They had one decent shot up into...
Was that tipping over the bar one?
It was at our top left-hand corner. Yeah. And he that was a regulation save. He can do it, but it's just we need to get him back to where he was. He was in the Poland World Cup squad. That might have had, that's a small factor. There is a small pattern which has come up. Players like Luongo for Queen's Park Rangers, players who were away on World Cup duty, even if they didn't play, it can disrupt their rhythm, because rather than having a proper post-season May, June, you're suddenly going all the way through to July, and then it's a small side point. Maybe I'm being too soft on him, but at the moment we know what he's capable of. To be fair, I felt the first goal, fair enough. He threw his arm up and it hit. It ricocheted off his arm.
Probably didn't know where I think, because he was on the ground. I don't know how he ended up on the ground. I think it was a bit of pinball. He probably didn't realise his position he lost the goal, didn't he?
He lost his angles. He lost his angles. And
struggling to get that one out there.
Yeah. No, it's spot on. The second goal, though, the cushioned volley from Patterson from the kickoff, that was, I don't know, a more confident keeper would have just said, I always believe goalkeepers should be, we'll come on to when we talk about Pantilimon in a bit. This is my bloody area. I'm boss of it. You will do what I say. The Schmeichel approach, just thinking, right, this is my fiefdom, my rules, everything, and attackers and defenders, you do what I say. Yeah. And I've always felt Bart was never the most loud communicator. if I could say make one observation about him, I'd love him to be, but then you can't make somebody what they're not. If his style is different, he's a quiet leader. But anyway, but
No, well,
no,
McCarthy figured that out, didn't he? And that's why the
yeah,
defence was so well drilled, and
yeah,
their roles were probably coached into them rather than
yeah,
Bart or Chambers setting the tone.
yeah. The third goal was a cruel. I mean, you can't. No, it was a ricochet. It was a deflection, and Diadu. I mean, bless them. Bristol. I should be careful with the comments I lift from forums. Bristol fans describe Diadu as having a first touch like a trampoline, but yet he happened to be in the right place at the right time to
Yeah.
be able to be able to nod the ball in. But when Bristol City fell behind, you felt that they were going to come at us. When we fell behind, you just felt, well, and particularly with having done it, having having been in front twice, I think it just killed us. Ben, interestingly, just sort of moving away from Bart, Ben said something interesting, and he spotted it: the switch of Eliasson across and combining him up with Lloyd Kelly. Kelly has come up before. Dave
I
and
like
Ben.
him. Yeah, we saw him last
Dave,
season.
Dave, he's been on the Blue Monday radar for at least one season. I know he's been coming up regularly as one to watch, and suddenly, he was getting forward. You could argue, could Edwards have done a lot better as well? It's not always just the fullback. What support are they getting? Could
Yeah.
he, if you felt that there was too much standing off. It was a bit like, we'll come on and talk about Yannick Bolasie for Villa against Forest, but it was a similar thing. The crosses were being, we were letting them in too easily, and they spotted the weakness on that side. Bristol fans had said that Eliasson is a better Nicholas Eliasson. He's a very peppery we can allow actually on this one because he is that. He's but very much on the left wing rather than on the right. He's way more dangerous going down that side, and obviously it just gave them that lift. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm.
we'll go through the questions. I think there's quite a lot of questions on personnel and
Yeah.
rotation, and certainly Guion Edwards' name comes up, I think, as does Jordan Spence, unsurprisingly, but positives, Sears, back in the goals. There was a question, I don't think it was tweeted in response to my ask for questions, but I think I saw this last night. Something to stew over and consider we might come back to at the end um, is there a I guess we don't know. The season's still got quite a long way to go. But is this another one of these games where Ipswich don't turn up when they need to? And I think the comparison was given the Bolton game in the second season of the Premier League, where Bolton turned us over 4-1, and we were, I think, 4-0 down at half time. Is it probably the last example of a game so pivotal for our season, and particularly chances of survival? You'll notice my decoration behind me with a slight theme today. But could this be one of those watershed moments where we haven't turned up and things are now taken out of our hands?
The Bolton game, somebody asked that question on Twitter, Rich. I saw that, and that 4-1 against Bolton, Freddie Bobic, wasn't it? And Heriderson was the one who was a no-show that match. I always remember that. I was furious with him.
Oh, Andy Marshall as well.
Yeah, there was a couple of players who didn't turn up. I don't know. To me, it was as important a game as that, because the maths now don't look great. But we'll come on to the maths in a minute. It was the I. Whereas against Queens Park Rangers and against some of the other no-shows we've had this season were complete no-shows. This wasn't a complete no-show. We were competitive for a good hour of the match.
Oh, we were in front for some of it, weren't we? Yeah.
Exactly. We were utterly imperfect. Let's not deny that. We don't have the quality, but we were competitive. But we just simply couldn't sustain it. So I don't think under Lambert we've had a no-show. We play with positivity. We play on the front foot. One of the crumbs of comfort I've written down was that first goal we scored was born out of Lambert's playing style. Bart, Skuse, Sears, goal. Playing it on the ground, players moving into position, spotting runs. Skuse had a phenomenal game. Picking out Sears' run. He left Pisano for absolute dead. Pisano hadn't played he was back. It was his first game since August, I think. He's an old school Italian fullback. He's really good normally, but he was obviously very rusty, and Sears managed to get a yard on him. So I wouldn't call it a no-show. I think we did play with personality, but the lack of quality and the lack of confidence were a combination of those two of the things for me. Anyway, I don't know. Feel free to disagree, Rich. That's what did it for me.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's let's look forward, shall we? Or let's try to look forward. playing a team with quality and confidence potentially. We were having a bit of a chat in advance of tonight about what we can say about Forest, and had kind of peddled out the usual cliches about clean sheets and Karanka ball, and last night kind of threw that up a little bit, didn't it?
It's hilarious. We were chatting. I was saying, you know, I was saying to Rich, to tell everyone that I was saying, you know, do you know the famous Die Hard film, which I love, The Safecracker? I was thinking, before last night, Forest had conceded 1 goal in 5 games in the league, and that was a very dodgy Kemar Roof Maradona style handball goal in the Leeds game. Other than that, they were just absolutely tight. And in their run, I think since Norwich beat them, the 6-game run now they've had, it included draws at Villa, at Leeds, and at home to Stoke, and wins over Hull and Sheffield United. I think they've beaten Borough away as well. This is a team that is full of steel. And so we were thinking, how are we going to, we need a safecracker. We need the FBI.
What chance have we got?
What chance have we got? You ask for a miracle, I give you the FBI. We were thinking this was the kind of line we were going to take. How on earth are we going to break this lot down? And then last night, whilst the Bristol game was going on, I was keeping an eye on the Forest forum and watching the absolute mayhem that was going on over there. There was suddenly, it was 2-0, then it was 2-2, and then it was 3-3, then it was 4-3, and then they had a man sent off, and then it was 5-4, and they were absolute nervous wrecks. There some of their comments. One of the guys said, I'm sitting here with a beer on the sofa watching Forest. I'm absolutely exhausted.
Yes. Just rocking back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Heads pounding. It's what do you do? Do you base your analysis of Forest on that, or do you base it on absolutely everything that's happened before, the previous run of whatever it was, 6 games when they have been utterly impenetrable? There are teams which cover both, to be fair. And the one thing I would say about Forest is the one word is steel. There's a steel in the team. They're growing into the season, and there's a resilience. This is where Karanka is really good. And even after the madness of last night, even though they conceded 5 goals and it was a draw, they were still praising the resilience of the team to come back from being 5-4 down with the man sent off. Yep. They said, right, we're not giving up here, and they, it was almost like, they just kept on going. They were like a machine.
But that still runs through the side, though, doesn't it? I mean, looking at the personnel, you've got the likes of Dawson, who's been there and done that. The two sort of sitting midfielders, Colback and Jakob, have got that steel as well, and Graben kind of appeared out when you needed him most to score a goal. I mean, the 5th goal was a bit keepery. We've talked about the Villa keeper before; he's near post, but Graben kind of suddenly appeared out of nowhere and grabbed the goal when you need him to. And I think that's probably that's the difference between a team like Forest and probably us at the moment, isn't it? We just don't.
Yeah. They're a team of finishers. They're an absolute team of finishers. Exactly. Or Graben, I should say, is a finisher more accurately. They are. They will get the narrative of a lot of their games is keep it incredibly tight. In that sense, you're absolutely right, Rich, that they are the opposite to us. They'll keep it really tight all game and then wait for one moment of quality. It might be a half chance. Yeah. They get the half chance, bang, 1-0, and that's it. They'll then just keep you at arm's length. Yeah,
and we're giving those half chances or even full chances up at the moment, aren't we? Even from our own corners. But anyway, let's not be. I need to turn my negativity around. I need to be a bit positive. Let's focus on Forest at least. So, am I right in thinking that Karanka's pretty safe on his 4-2-3-1 formation?
Yeah, hasn't changed. 2 holding midfielders and an attacking quartet. Discipline and shape. And the other thing worth noting again is that they talked about the fact that they actually have relatively high possession statistics, but that's not necessarily because of taking care of the ball. It's because they actually win it back very well. Right. They don't let opponents get into a rhythm if they can avoid it. They'll come down as soon as they get the ball, they'll be bang straight into them. Stop them. They press instantly almost. And there was a lovely phrase one of them said. This leapt off the page. He said, "We're seeing a natural progression from resolute football to resolute football with real attacking intent." So they've started, as I say, with that really, that sort of iron tortoise shell. Mixing my metaphors up gloriously here. An iron tortoise. Anyway, no, but they, none shall pass. But now they're starting to overlay some creativity, and they've got themselves solid at the back, and now they're building a counterpunch, which will their attacking quartet. They were so incisive against Aston Villa, which was an issue that had been in the previous run of games. They were only getting one or two half chances. They literally, they sliced Villa open regularly last night. It was quite, John Terry would have been in the bench. He'll have been having absolute kittens watching the ease with which they did it. But the big thing with Forest, as I say, under Karanka, it's very much. I mean, one of them jokingly said he's the only manager who sets out to win every game 0-0. That was before last. That was before last night, but they're growing into the season. One of them said you can see the direction we're heading in. A solid team is taking shape. They're turning into a real force. Is this thing of them? This great Marcus Stewart comment about teams at the end of the season not being the same as at the beginning. There's a team here that's really evolving, and the other thing, they've had so many flaky teams over the years under Stuart Pearce, and even to a degree under Mark Warburton at the back. There's none of that with this. They are, they're absolutely. Solid is the word I'd use for them. Very hard to beat, and as you alluded to it, aside developing real personality.
We've talked about the probably the steely personnel. Presumably the big name attacking wise is Carvalho. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Or is it the wide players as well?
It's let's look up front, and we can then. We'll come back to the tortoise, because the kind of the back six, if I can describe them as that, with the keeper. But the forwards are very destructive. Carvalho, the goals come from two people. They come from Lewis Grabban and Joe Lawley. They're the two. In terms of finishing, they're the two highest goal scorers they've got. Let's start with Grabban, and we'll work our way back. The cliche, the joke they talk about him, and it's a very good one. I think you'll agree, Rich, is feed the beard.
Feed the beard, yeah.
Feed the beard. We like that. We like that on Blue Monday. Grabban has won matches with. Yeah, he's the only half chance of a boring game. He's prolific. He's brilliant in the box. He doesn't score spectacular goals, but he knows where to be to hoover up any loose balls or to be at the end of balls in the box. Great footwork, and the key phrase with Grabban, top class reactions.
Yes.
He's 30. He's vastly experienced. He played for Norwich. He came from Bournemouth. He was a lot of these players came in this summer. I think 6 of the starting 11 joined this under Karanka. So he's built his team in the summer, and it's now beginning to come into focus, as it were. But so Grabban is a finisher.
He's in this school of strikers, though, along with Earnshaw, Nugent, Jordan Rhodes, potentially, that is probably really good at Championship level, but just not good enough in the Premier League. Is that fair?
A squad player in the top flight, absolutely. Yeah, he's caught between the two. I totally agree with that.
I'm not thinking about his long beard, though. It's a lot more wispier than ours, though, isn't it? It's got.
Oh no, it is.
It's a bit of gravity.
No, it's got substance. It really does. We can only hope to. That's why we're sitting here.
Maybe over Christmas.
Yeah. So you've got that. You've got the playmaker playing off him. There was a lot of hype around the 3 Portuguese lads that they brought in over the summer. The one who was really clicked is João Carvalho. Came from Benfica, and he was a permanent signing. He was
big
the one
money as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of money. I think it was
15 million or something like that?
Yeah, it was
double digits, wasn't it? Millions.
Yeah. Unplayable. Assists so many attacks. He's not big. He's one of these kind of little magicians. That model of footballer. And this was a slightly scary comment. They beat Hull 2-0 in the game before the mad 5-5 draw against Villa. He's the big assister. That's the other thing. He's the one. They'd say you want him to be in the position where he's the pass before the shot, and then it's a goal opportunity waiting to happen. That's what he does. He's the provider. But yeah, the scary phrase against Hull was he had a brilliant game against Hull, but I would be surprised if teams give him that much space. Right. So you basically, Skews or Chalobah just have to sit on this guy and shut him down, and then rely on others to do their jobs. There was one slightly amusing comment. They said he's Houdini around the penalty area, but he's more like Paul Daniels playing further back. You want him in a position further up. You want him in a position further up the field. Exactly. I thought we'd work Paul Daniels into a blog, but there you go. He is a very he's very tricky. He's technically good,
Yeah.
brilliant in tight spaces. He's the locksmith basically.
Yeah.
So you've got him, and then out wide, really the name to talk about, as he caused mayhem
You're worried about
against
this guy,
Aston
aren't
Villa.
you? We spoke
I'm
about
very.
before.
He scares me, this guy, Joe Lolly. Ex Huddersfield, joined them last January. He set up 4 of the goals. Normally he's a left winger, which actually really frightened me, having watched the Bristol game. I thought, dear God, not him against Jordan Spence. But in fact, most of the destruction he wrought against Villa came off the right.
Okay.
And he scored one absolute pile driver.
Oh, the fourth.
It's worth it.
Oh.
It just was the one that took the net off. It was quite
Hashtag
unbelievable.
Thronker. I'm going to love that word.
Yeah, totally. Brilliant, brilliant goal. They describe him as the best wide player they've had since Antonio. That's high praise. That it really is. Yeah, he's not he's not athletic that way at all. But he will run at full backs. He'll take a man on and make something out of nothing. He's one of those players who just likes getting the ball and just committing a defender. He really does. One of them affectionately said he's got the same technique as an overexcited toddler on the beach.
Okay.
I love that image. He's just he's one of these. But he's a natural. This is the way you can't. He's not going to rebuild his running style. It's just an expression of his personality. But it really, really works. He pulls players out of position and he gets you on the edge of your seat when he runs at fullbacks. He frightens me. He really frightens me because he's him more so. I feel that Skuse could do a job on Carvalho. He's done this before. He's shot. We've seen him man mark players out of games, but Lolly frightens me. He really, really does.
And if you've got the rest of the team that is holding firm behind him, he effectively has license to do whatever he wants. Really, I suspect there's less of an expectation of him to track back than maybe the likes of Edwards or Sears for us. Is that fair?
But he does that.
But he'll do that anyway. Okay, brilliant.
He's selfless, industrious. He has a defensive side to his game as well. He's one of the things they picked up on is that Karanka has brought in players who have had promotions, who have come up out of the league before. Lolly was one of those. Obviously he went up with Huddersfield, yes. On the other attacking players, they're the 3 main people, as I say, Graven, Lolly, and Carvalho. Matty Cash is the other regular starter on the right wing. They feel he's not a natural winger. He does a job because he's a very busy style of play. He's still quite young. He's only 21, but they really feel he's actually more naturally a box-to-box midfielder. He's energetic. He's industrious, and he gives the illusion of being a winger. They feel they need another proper winger in there, or maybe for maybe one of the Portuguese guys to come through. Right. What do you reckon?
Sorry, no, I was just saying it. Presumably, he's got the appearance of someone who's busy, and therefore he's the shuttler to stick out wide. And actually, he's probably as they're saying, someone to box.
One thing that they did say about him was that there is a lack of confidence with him. As I say, given he's relatively young. He did make one great driving run into the box for Forest's 3rd goal at Villa, but he does go down too easily when he loses the ball. And has instigated contact. Now, not necessarily in a Neymar kind of way. They think it's him lacking confidence and he'll take the easy way out. Right. So he runs into problems. So he thought, well, I'll go down, I'll try and get a free kick. Yeah. Teddy Bishop did that for a little bit, I remember, when he was coming
James
through.
Madison last weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than actually just saying, to hell with the contact, I'm just going to keep going. So in that sense, they feel as a winger, he's one-dimensional. But as I say, he will start. A couple of other... While we're looking at the forwards, the other plan B they've got is Diogo Gonçalves. We'll see him. He's very much a fringe player. He's still getting to grips with the pace and physicality of the league. But Gil Diaz is the other winger. He regularly comes off the bench, and he exploits spaces that open up. He often replaces Cash they say Cash on the right, but yes, it's given that they alternate. Tireless work rate. He frightens players to death. The only question mark around him is that he was incredibly hyped up before he came, and they think he's really good without the ball, but they'd like him to see him do more with the ball.
What does that mean?
It means he's very good.
He looks good in the shirt, Harry. Yeah,
he looks good in the shirt. No, he's lightning quick. He has a long range shot. He's kind of one of these players. He frightens players. He's got this kind of electric pace, and you suddenly see a player blistering through him behind a defensive line, and you're kind of going, "Ooh, that looks really good." It's like a midfielder who'll suddenly play a clever geometric pass. Liam Brady used to do that when he played for Ireland. I remember you'd watch him, and he'd play some really clever pass, and the crowd would all go, "Ooh, we don't know. We haven't a clue what we saw, but
we know it's good." Yeah.
one of those. But it could well be that ultimately Diaz will start and Cash will come off the bench. Ideally, I think Cash softens up the fullback and then Diaz comes on and puts on a good show. Yeah. Anyway, so Ben Osborne is another worth side mention. He's working off a calf injury, but he's the left-sided player they've got. He's full, big heart and a huge engine, full of pressing and energy. But he's one of those players who may struggle because he's versatile, because he can play in a midfield role, he can play in a full-back role, left back. He can play as a left midfielder as well. And the only other player worth mentioning, Darryl Murphy's out of the picture, is the other player who will probably come off the bench. He only joined them in November because of work permit problems. Ex-Olympiacos, tying in with the Forest owners. Yep. There's a guy called Karim Ansarafad. Unlike he's a striker, he could replace Graben for the last 20 minutes. Different type of striker to Graben. Graben, as I say, is more of a poacher and, as I say, quick around the box and quick at reacting. And Sarafad is more of a technical striker. He likes the ball at his feet, dribbling, good passing skills. He's got a good work rate as well. And he will also do a lot of pressing, which can be very useful in the last 20 minutes. They do like him. He's only just joined this month. They've only seen a few bench appearances, but it's one of those names. Oh, who is he? Keep an eye out for him as well. So that's their attacking. That's the attacking end of the field.
Just quickly on Murphy. Would you have him back on loan?
Discuss. He's. One of them said, I've made a few notes on him. When Murphy's on form, he's viable. They've said, I'm not sure he could play every game. No. He could do a job for us as a bench option, or he could do, not to score, but he could be, if you've got Jordan Roberts up front, why not get Murphy in? Because it's exactly the type of striker that Lambert would like, somebody who's not just a target man. One interesting point they spotted about him, which I've never thought about with Murph, is they talked about the fact that he's actually not that slow, contrary to what people believe, because he appears like a target man. He has his rapid bursts of acceleration can catch a lot of defenders unaware, and they talked about his clever movement, and of course we know he can shoot like a rocket. That was the other thing they said. But that's actually something that made me think about Murphy. He's actually... You always think about Murph as being that focal point, but he did actually vary his pace. Thinking back to that fantastic season he had with us, that he had that ability to switch pace, to catch defenders off guard, and to make that yard of space for himself.
Did he score? We drew 2-2 at Forest in that season, and Murphy scored both goals. I think the first goal, I seem to recall him running through quite a direct run, and then a decent shot. So I might have a look at that, because it's an interesting thought. That he's definitely a direct runner, and as you say, the turn of pace definitely worked in his favour to get him out of trouble or find himself a shooting position, didn't it?
Yeah, they're full of praise for him. He's spot on. He's still fit. He's still keeping himself, he's such a professional. He really is. They're full of praise for him even still. He hasn't played, I usually look back over the last 8 games. He hasn't played in any of those, but they're saying Karanka's using him well. I think with Ansarafat coming in, Murphy will now drop out. He will become plan C almost, as it were, but maybe get a run in if they, when the FA Cup comes around for them. But yeah, he's physically fit. He's taking good care of himself, and he's retired as well from international football. He's no longer part of the Irish squad. There's the question: Will Mick have a phone call? I wonder.
Well, we know who his strike partner's going to be for Ireland, don't we, Mick?
Good point. Exactly. Oh dear, this was discussed last weekend. We were thinking, oh God, he's back.
Stephen Hunt will be getting the phone call next, won't he?
Exactly, he will be.
Dougie.
Yeah.
Reunion lads.
Oh, Douglas in midfield. It'd be like Harry Redknapp and Nico Crenshaw, won't it? Oh, jeez.
Fantastic player. Sorry, there you go. There's an impression as well.
Oh, yes, thank you.
So we talked about the attacking flair. Have anyone else to mention there, or shall we start looking at the steel tortoise shell?
Let's look at the steel tortoise shell. Let's get stuck in there. The interesting thing, which way shall we go? Let's look at the midfield, because that's interesting. And the midfield is a definite strong area, or so we thought, until Aston Villa got hold of it, and Aston Villa ripped it apart. There were some comments they made. Let me just bring them up on my notes here, just to read out to people. It was quite. Villa. It was a combination of Grealish, McGinn, and Hourihane, and basically they just overwhelmed.
It's quite the three, that isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But that's the type of midfield three you need to overwhelm Forest. They just went after them, and the comments they made were it was quite a shock to a lot of the Forest fans watching the game. They said we need to. This was late first half, and Villa really they got a stranglehold of the game when it was 3-2. We need to bring our midfield into the game more as Villa are walking through us. It was far too early for those three to play through us. They were slicing through us at the end of the first half, giving us. They were getting too much time in midfield. It was scary stuff. And I think that the reason the defence has been so strong in the games leading up to Aston Villa was because you had Jack Colback and Claudio Jakob sitting in front of them, and those two are primarily they're sitters, they're holding midfielders. They'll allow the fullbacks to get forward if necessary, but their job is just to act as a first. They're kind of the first in the vanguard of the defence almost, just to stop anything coming through.
Especially Jakob, he's a brute.
We'll look at. We'll do call. There is a. They also have Adelan Guediora, who they affectionately call Pep, funnily enough. But I have a feeling he's going to play against us, the Algeria international. But we'll do callback first, and then we'll come on to Jakob. Callback is. He is an out-and-out holding midfielder who will protect the back four, and they love him because I think his positional discipline makes him perfect for Karanka's style. He closes space down. He anticipates danger well. He's quite like, actually thinking back about him when he played for us on loan, there is a touch excuse about him. He's not flash. He doesn't really get into dangerous attacking positions. Occasionally he will drift upfield, but he's not a dynamic player. Now we're seeing more of that from Skuse lately, I have to say. But Colback is one of those guys. He'll see a fire and he'll scurry across and put it out. Yeah, that's very much his job.
I really liked him for us.
Yeah, consistent, and you can see that positional discipline. In that sense, you often think, if Mick had Callback, he would have absolutely adored him.
Yeah,
no question about that. And Claudio Jakob, he's now this guy's more interesting, I think. I thought Ben will love him because he's Argentine international back in the day. He played for Racing Club, one of the great big five teams of Buenos Aires, who interestingly also, and I'm throwing this in for Ben because it'll make Ben smile hopefully, Ubaldo Fiol, the goalkeeper who was in the 1978 World Cup winning team, also played for Racing Club. They're one of those. They wear the same coloured shirts as the Argentine national team.
Right.
They're up there at River Plate, Boca. There's Independiente, I think, and Rosario, I think, at the five. They're the great. They're the big Avenaleda, I think, is the suburb of Buenos Aires where Racing are based. Proper. He was successful there. He's 31. He's got lots of experience. He came from West Brom, and they can't believe West Brom let him go. One of them compared him to Mascherano, but I don't think he's quite that.
He's not as cultured, I don't think.
No.
And I could tell you a bit of insight in terms of Jakob, because I think Jakob is a symbol of the Pulis era, and I think that's why West Brom are quite happy to let him go, because he has a job and he's doing it well at Forest, clearly, and they appreciate him for that. I think West Brom fans probably saw him as one of these grunty footballers that isn't going to bring a huge amount to the party in terms of attacking threat or flair, and he's got a job which is to be what's his nickname?
El Bastardo.
There you go. It sounds much nicer in another language than I was about to say.
It's got a nice exotic feel to it, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh no, they said about him that he brings I've bowdlerized this. I've softened. I can't say some of these words, but the way they did some of the words they used to describe his playing style. But they said he brings an Argentine skullduggery, which is 3 times the normal level. But the other thing about him is that the turnover possession he generates is incredible. You're just running into a brick wall with him. But he like any South American footballer, he seems to create that half yard of space for himself to be able to play the ball out. He calms things down and gives them a platform from which to attack. Now you think about anybody who's schooled because he did play a fair bit in Argentina before coming across. That is proper streetwise football over there, and you need to be technically good as well as having that rugged side to you. The only other comment which is worth mentioning is one of them described him as the Roy Keane imitation I've always wanted us to have, which I don't know if he'd be quite Roy Keane, but there's elements of Keane in there, definitely.
Yeah, I think one of the things that he's really good at, and this will frustrate a lot of teams this season, is when Forest are under pressure, he will break up the play by conceding really crappy fouls, and avoid being booked as well. By the way, he's got this down to an art form, and if it's needed, he'll put a shift in as a El Bastardo, definitely. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love South American football. I love that cynical side to it. You can see, you just have to respect it.
Bit of a shirt pull or a bit of a
Absolutely,
nudge, or I'll kick the ball away and when the
Yeah.
free kick's given against us. Yeah, he's the master of that.
So the Italian word is forbizia, isn't it? Where they try and the idea is just to unsettle the psychology of your opponent, and in those terms, it's totally valid. So it's something we don't do so much here.
And it will work at championship level as well. Actually.
It will do. So as I say, I think for the more if they're playing Leeds away or they're up against a really strong team, it's Colback and Jakob. I think the other option, as I say, Guedioura is. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes on against us because he'll have more space to operate in, and he's got more of an attacking dimension to his play. They said they missed his passing against Hull. Hull was a very patient game, and they managed to get 2 goals to eventually unlock them. But Guedioura is somebody he can drive forward, but he can also pass. But he is hit and miss. There's games when his touch is off and it just doesn't work. So he's not perfect. I didn't realize he's played for Wolves, Watford, and Middlesbrough. He's got a.
It's a name I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw him against us last year. He was. Him and Colback last year with the two sit in that midfield, and he definitely balances the team in the way a lot of the 3-man midfielders now. You have the out-and-out playmaker, you have the sitter, and you have the kind of deep line playmaker who can, like the what's his name for Preston.
Ben Pearson.
No, it's
Brown?
No, it's not. Is it Robinson?
Robinson's the winger, isn't he?
No, it's not. No, it's Keep frantically getting his notes. We've got to find this out now. You're all screaming it. Everybody listening to the podcast will be shouting the name down the. Shouting the name. No, it's Daniel Johnson. Daniel Johnson. Yes. Sorry.
We'll keep that in. I was going to edit that one out, but I think everyone likes to see that we're human after all.
No. Anyway, no. But it's that type. He's that type of player, I think. So he can pick a pass from deep. He can also bring play forward. So that 10 yards up the field thing, Guedioura has that in him. He can turn defence from attack into deep midfield. And when teams are sitting back a bit more, you want him running forward with the ball. And interestingly, they haven't said much in their pre-match discussions about Saturday's game, but the one thing that has come up regularly is put Guedioura in because he might be able to take the game to Ipswich a bit more.
Yeah.
Particularly as we don't have a lot ourselves going forward.
So that's not in the midfield 3, is it?
No. So therefore, there's a feeling that's what they could get some value out of that. A couple of we always like a where are they now, and players who we all know and whatever they disappeared to. The two players who have with Jakob and Guedioura kind of really taking hold, particularly Jakob, Ben Watson has drifted out. The guy who scored the World Cup.
Another ginger midfielder. The Wigan winner in the FA Cup final, yeah.
The Wigan winner of the FA Cup final, not the World Cup, the FA Cup final.
I thought he'd retired. There you go. That's a...
No, he's a solid player, but and this sums up the difference between what Karanka inherited and what he now has. They talked about Watson not being able to follow the speed of transition or creativity quickly enough required by Karanka's style of play. So he's a good, calm player, but he just lacks that extra tempo to his game in midfield that Karanka wants. So if you win the ball, Jakob or Guedioura will be up the field quicker. Yeah. Watson might need a touch. He might need a couple of extra seconds. And the other player, Liam Bridcut, is the other one who has been in and out of the
game.
He's
been around a while, hasn't he?
He has been around a while, but again, he's very much a fringe player. So that's the midfield 3, and which takes us on to the back. And they're actually thin on numbers.
I was going to say, there's nothing there that's... I'm not looking at a huge amount of threats coming from the fullbacks. Byram is a name that I know, ex-West Ham, I think.
Yeah.
Centre-backs are solid.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're... Well, you tell us about Heffley, I think.
We'll come on to let's do it. Let's start with the keeper and we work our way out.
Okay. Yeah.
Because one of the things again is to say, Rich and I were trying to work out where's the weakness, where's the kryptonite, what can we get at, and that we were struggling. And then I got on to Costel Pantilimon, and the guy's is he 6'8"? He's an absolute
very lanky, yeah.
But he can't dominate his area or take control of situations.
He's a dodgy keeper, isn't he? Yeah,
he is,
been for ages.
for Villa's second goal, he badly spilled the shot. There was a shot that came in from outside the box. He spilled it, and Tammy Abraham was there. Bang, and that got them their set. That brought it back to 2-2. He was the phrase "staying on your line when there's an aerial bombardment doesn't help your defence." He just tried to get attacks going with this quick distribution, but he lacks the quality, and they miss good chances on the counter. Romania international, played for Watford, and he was on loan from Forest from January. I think he came in then, but for
He was
such
Sunderland,
a
wasn't
huge
he?
he was Sunderland before that, that's right. But he's not confident enough to control things. He's another, he seems to be a bit of a gentle giant. And when you look at the sheer scale of the guy, you think, my God, he should be absolutely able to dominate that box, but he doesn't. But he has got two decent defenders in front of him. Now, Figueiredo, one quick comment on him. He's suspended, obviously. He got the red card. One of the things they said about him was that he struggles against physical strikers, and to overcompensate, he dives in.
Well, there you go. It's exactly what happened, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
In a really, really random place in the field as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was over near the touchline. It was a fascinating one in the Villa game that he's not a malicious defender, but it's almost this weakness that he feels he needs to do something about, and therefore if he gets flustered, or again, so much of it. Who was saying it was Ancelotti said so much defending is actually in the mind. It's not. We talked about that the other week, and that's a classic example of that, actually, of a defender who can be unsettled for a reason and therefore overcompensate and make a mistake. So, but he's out of the game. But the real, I mean, the focal point at the back is Dawson, Michael Dawson. He's 35 now, and in a way they said with the protection that he was getting from the two midfielders, funnily enough, when Villa were able to break through the midfielders, Dawson was then more exposed. Against weaker teams, the style suits perfectly because the midfielder are protecting him, and all his work is about dealing with crosses, and that's what he's brilliant at. And the other thing about him is, again, with that bit of protection, it's almost a bit like a quarterback in American football. He's then able to pass the ball. If he's given time, he can actually hit some really good long diagonal passes.
Oh, okay, maybe I underrated him then.
Yeah, it's so I think at Hull, that whole team last year, he was they were a bit of a mess. He wasn't given the protection, but in the right team, he's able to. His weaknesses, his strengths suddenly come to the fore. So the leadership qualities as well. Watson, I think, is the team captain, but obviously Watson's out of the picture now. So I think Dawson is the one. I'm not sure he's got the armband. I think it's Colback, but Dawson is one they definitely look to for leadership at the back. So he's, as I say, he's great strength. And then we come on to the Hef, Michael Hefele. This guy's an absolute cult hero in Huddersfield. They adore him. He played for Dynamo Dresden before coming across. He was one of Wagner's signings at Huddersfield. A proper warrior who will deal effectively with long balls and direct counterattacks. I love this. He has a chin to chin with an opponent in every game. Nothing nasty, but he won't take any messing.
Jordan Roberts.
Yeah, you just get that chin. Get it sharpened up there because you're going to need it. I never thought I'd say that, but he's a natural leader. He does put opponents off their game. No, they adore him. He really cares about his teammates. He's one of these players. Often you talk about football in a way as being theatre, and he's an absolute actor when he's on the field. And one of the things, Forest fans haven't said it so much, but he's one of those players. Huddersfield fans used to say this about him. He would do a sort of it was a Richard Keogh like, give me the right, I've got the ball, right lads, I'm off, I'll see you later.
Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Here are the keys. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And he'd literally hair off up the field with the ball, and it was one of those things in a dull game, but the whole ground would suddenly be enervated from this absolute kamikaze centre back. but like Dawson, he's more of a physical player. I think Figueiredo had a bit more technical ability to him. Hefele is a more kind of as I say, the word warrior is probably a proper warrior is about right to sum him up. So definitely him and Dawson will be at the back, I think. And at the two full backs, we'll talk right back. Doriqua will come in.
Okay.
Or he'll start. He's been regular for them. He played for Burnley, actually. He had a spell at Burnley, came to them from Chesterfield. He has blossomed this season. They really like him. I think Karanka has brought another side of his play out. He's always had the physicality, but he's now getting his positioning better. His decision making is better. He's developed an attacking threat. Some of his crosses are dangerous. Sometimes when he brings the ball out, he can be a bit. In other ways, sometimes Luke Chambers can play the odd kind of careless pass. You can see what he's trying to do. It doesn't work. I think Doriqua's passing is probably not brilliant, but getting up the field, using his athleticism, a bit like the Wolves strikers. I know Ben laughed when we mentioned Sacco and Dicko for Wolves last week. He sort of brought out his sort of schoolboy's humour, but totally right. But Derek was in that model of athletic up and down fullback if he can get forward, athletic wide player, and he has blossomed this year. So he's adding an attacking dimension. Or was it left back? Jack Robinson. This is the guy who played for Liverpool, and more notably, you might remember him from Queens Park Rangers.
No, it's not a name that it rings any bells.
Okay, no, he's one of these players who's been coming through. He's 25 years old. He was when he was at Liverpool, he was a bit of a name, but never came to anything there. He's good, another athletic fullback. He brings height and physicality to the position. He possesses an aerial threat at set pieces. And he's a proper left back. That's what he does. He's a plug in and play kind of defender. They were talking maybe about him switching into left centre back with Figueiredo out, but people were saying no, leave him where he is. His positioning is good. He gets stuck in and always tries to use the ball instead of lumping it. So he's probably more of a footballing fullback than Doriqua. However, just what it says on the tin type of player. However, he was given an absolute torrid time by Balassi against Aston Villa. He dived in to concede the penalty, which brought it back to 3-3.
Oh, okay, that was him. Okay,
that was him. Yeah, it was one of those games. He'd be dreaming about Balassi for the next couple of weeks. He'll be dreading when they come up against each other again. To be fair, I think playing against weaker teams with the holding midfielders in front of them and then with them taking the game onto opponents, he seems to have been able to handle it. But for some reason, it could have been just a bad night. I don't know. But that's if we're looking for a possible chink somewhere in their defences, possibly Jack Robinson. Yeah. So that's the team, as I say. Pantilimon in goal. You'll have Doriqua, Dawson, Hefele, Robinson across. Two out of callback, Jakob and Guedioura. Probably Guedioura and probably callback. I don't know how they'll play that. Then Carvalho in the middle. You'll have Lolly and Cash playing with Graben up front in a 4-2-3-1. It's and we will have our work cut out, I can tell you.
We will. Are we thinking our easy? Pantilimon in goal. I think we've started, haven't we? We should just be shooting from all over the place.
Just get the ball to Freddie and just clear an alley for him to be able to get it, just to have a crack at goal and see what we can get. Yeah.
Well, Harry, that was brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Really good stuff. I don't feel a huge amount better about the fixture, but at least I know where the threats are coming from.
At least we know what we're up against. Yeah.
Shall we do some questions and we'll try and do some crumbs of comfort as well as we go along. A lot of these will be about last night, but we'll try to fit them into the context of Saturday as well. Where to start? How do we, from Tig O'Regan, how do we reprogram our defenders to stop booting the ball away? Before Bart's howler, the first goal came from an aimless Knudsen clearance. If we pass it, the goal doesn't come. I mean, unfortunately that's in the makeup of some of these players, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and teams, I mean, West Brom definitely in the first half, they spotted that was what we were trying to do, and they deliberately, their attacking quartet were deliberately shutting us down to try and, they were trying to press us in our third because they could see that we weren't naturally confident with it. I think we've just got to stick with doing it because, as I say, it did work for the first goal. Playing it out from the back definitely worked for the first goal against Bristol City. As I say, the way the excuse was able to get it onto Sears, and they didn't lay a glove on us, Bristol, for that one. But I think it's just going to be practice. Yeah. I can't think. It's just we can't go chopping and changing. We don't, as Lambert himself said, we don't have the physicality up front or anywhere really to be able to, to have a big out ball, as it were. And the danger is if you play it upfield, it's going to come back at you twice as quickly.
Yeah. And Tim kind of,
he's right
when he talks about crumbs, talks about the midfield dropping to collect the ball from the defenders and linking that better. You've talked about Scouse, who was good last night. Tim asks about Pennington. Actually, he's been really solid generally, but he thought that Pennington was maybe looking panicked by the end. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, good question. There were a couple of moments, all right, when he he didn't seem to be as confident as he was earlier in the game. But it was in the wider scheme of things, it wasn't anything I'd necessarily worry about.
I think everyone's heads had gone, hadn't they, at that point?
Yeah, and I think there was the error as well he made again. I just don't like dwelling on the errors because there was the error for one of the West Brom goals as well. When was it for the first goal when Rodriguez got in front of him, if my memory serves me right. It's fundamentally he's been solid, but I think it could have been a confidence thing again, that just losing a percentage when it went to 3-2 down. I'm still trying to work out with that third goal. Was it Chambers for Diadu? Was it Chambers who'd fallen? He was one of our defenders was kneeling.
I thought it was Chambers.
It was Chambers, and Pennington then was left. And Pennington was in no man's land. It happened so quickly. You know, to be honest, Pennington, I wouldn't be hard on him, but I think again, when you take that. The experienced players of Sears, Chambers, Skuse out of the equation, the others will be vulnerable. I think they will ebb and flow in terms of being up and down. They don't have the experience to fall back on, and Pennington could fall into that cluster of players who will, it's like letting the air out of a tire when the goal goes in. Whereas those three, I think, they've got more resilience about them. Yeah.
Crumbs of comfort. Our friend Amy, Track Girl Amy 8. We have a dodgy keeper. This is a quote. Our defender got sent off, so he'll be missing Saturday. Quote from my friend who is a Forest fan. She is expecting us to beat them. I explain we can't score goals. There are some Forest fans who think that this is the kind of game that they might stuff up. Have we mentioned that yet?
They are. Earlier? There's two schools of thought. One of which is, we can take it easy and we can rotate. And then when people have been saying that on the Forest forums, thinking, Ipswich. One of them said, Ipswich are so hopelessly bad that it worries me. It would be just like us to screw this up. Which, God, it's hard. It's soul destroying when you read this.
We're that team.
Yeah, we are that team. We are exactly. I just hope we don't take them lightly. They are. Others are saying, let's not mess around here. Let's not go overboard with the rotation. Leave the team as it was. They're expecting us to park the bus just to sit, and just to try and keep them out. I don't think we can do that. This came up as well. This came up before the West Brom game, I think. Ben and I were chatting and thinking, if we sit back, we lose 2-0.
Yeah.
A la Middlesbrough.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, we can't. We've got to keep playing our natural game, even if it means we get, because in the second half against West Brom, we bloodied their nose. We absolutely took a chunk of them with us, and I think that's, if we're going to go down, I think we've got to go down leaving a load of nosebleeds behind us. If it comes to that, just take bites out of people as and when we can.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
More crumbs. Mrs. Nuts. Conceding 5 goals is pretty bad for Forest. Does that give her a sliver of hope for Saturday? # clutching.
Yeah,
look, we won't talk about the other side of the scoreline, Mr. Nuts.
Grealish, McGinn, Hourihane,
Abraham Balassi.
Exactly. The Villa.
Sorry, I was just listening.
You're right. The Villa strike force just may have had something to do with that 5. I think it'll be the if we do get a goal, we've got to treat it like Gollum treats the ring in Lord of the Rings, basically. We've got to treat it like a precious and cherish it, because it's one of those games where it's a bit like if you play Borough, you go 1-0 up, you guard that goal with your life because you won't get another one.
Our friend Mullet, are there 3 teams above us who have enough dysfunction or potential to have been overperforming to save us, who will drop enough points before we pick up at all?
This is a brilliant question, because I was thinking to say it was a brilliant question. I was on the same wavelength as Mullet on this. I was doing the maths after the defeat. To Bristol, we're 9 points off 6th bottom Rotherham, if I've read this right, and there are 4 teams sitting on 17, and we need 3 of those 4 to have a serious dip in form over the next month to give us any hope of staying up. And my logic was that if we could stay within 5 to 6 points of the 4th bottom team by New Year's Eve, we would be in with a shout. With that defeat against Bristol, it's now looking nearer 8 to 10 points. We could end up being behind, because with those 4 teams, one of them will struggle. 2 of them you're never sure about, and one will probably pull away. I don't know who they. Just looking at it statistically. So let's see what transpires. The win was important because it would have given us enough proximity to that little core of that group of 4 teams. But yeah. So that's how I see it. Just looking at the maths of it, we'll see what transpires. The other fear I have is that if we do get cut properly adrift, will that have an impact on who we can sign in January? God, I'm sorry, but that's a question you have to ask.
Yeah, and there are people asking that question on here, so I think that's it's definitely a factor, isn't it? And I think the other thing we're praying for is that the dysfunction point, someone goes into administration, but even then, that might not be enough for us. Wayne Joshua asks, surely Kenlock and Emmanuel have to come back in January. They won't cost a fee, they can stop across, they offer more, in his opinion, than Knudsen and Danassian going forward. Yes, they'll make mistakes, but they are a future. I'd also like to see Scouse Holding with Bish and Dizelle in there. Thoughts? So, thoughts on Kenlock and Emmanuel quickly?
I don't know enough. I haven't seen enough of Emmanuel to see how he's playing. I don't know what's in their contracts, whether they can come back or not. It comes back to the balance of the team. Whether you could whether they have enough experience, because I do think we do need another. I'd look for an experienced right back, I have to say, and depending on what happens with Jonas, Kenlock I've always liked. I've always felt he's probably got more of a wing back side to him, but. It's a question of just looking at the balance of experience in that team. I think we need more experienced championship players myself.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Any thought on bringing in Bishop and Dizelle for a start? I'm not sure. I don't think it was a great game for Downs or Chalobah last night.
No, I'd agree with that. Though the goals didn't come down through the centre, whether they could have got over and helped out. But in terms of from an attacking point of view, did they impose themselves on the game enough? Particularly, it goes back to the earlier confidence point. Did they have enough in them to be able to go forward? I think we need a few experienced warriors, to be honest. I really do.
Harry Butcher's being positive, our friend Harry. How bloody good is it to see Sears scoring?
That's great. Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. His form. That's one of the. I've written down my little crumbs of comfort list, and that's one of them. We have a chance of scoring now. I mean, okay, we're up against. We're going up against the north face of the Eiger on Saturday with the Karanka's defence, but with Sears in there, it does give us a counter punch, which is fantastic. And he has shown proper leadership. He really has, particularly given how long he was out of the picture. He was our fourth choice striker for last season. We could get the odd look in, and he was brilliant. Looking back to our playoff season, he was fantastic. Brilliant.
Andy Grimes, Andy, we covered your question, I think, at the start. I was looking for it, couldn't find it, but I'll read it out anyway because it is important. Can any of you remember, can either of us remember a worse result than Bristol City given the context? I've seen worse performances, but this result feels pretty seismic in terms of the history/future of the club. I think we've probably talked about that, but any more thoughts on that one?
No, the Bolton one leapt into my head straight away. It absolutely just leapt in. Yeah, that was the one. I found it. I was looking it up actually after I thought of it, and I saw Kevin Beattie talking about, poor bless him, Lord be good to him, talking about the lack of character there was in the team that day and the way players didn't step up. I think, to be fair, it was last night. We can say we're recording this on a Thursday. Bristol City, against Bristol City, it wasn't a lack of character. I think it was a lack of confidence and a lack of quality that did for us. But the Bolton game is in terms of a game with so much riding on it, in the sense of a threat. Yeah.
I guess inherent in Andy's question is the seismic nature is being third tier for the first time in 60 odd years or whatever. I think that's a realisation that's starting to dawn on people as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, as I've written down here, if we do go down, it won't be on Lambert and it won't be on the players. It'll be on the owner. But we'll come back to that another time.
Owners relegate clubs, as you often say. And Adam Williams. Why are a group of professional footballers so repeatedly incapable of taking a decent corner or free kick? Do they not work on finding the best takers of these in training? Flynn Downs was taking okay corners against Preston, I seem to recall, but what do we do during the week, set piece wise?
practice. I don't know what else you can say.
Practice.
It is true. I don't know. Again, the problem could be. I mean, to be fair, Hurst even had this problem because there isn't a huge physicality about the team. I mean, under Mick, you'd see Christoph Berra lumbering up the field, and you knew there was going to be a bit. You could just launch it in there and see what would happen. I remember even under Hurst, we didn't. When you'd put the ball in for a corner kick, it would inevitably come back out again because we didn't have any brutes in there. So therefore, you've got to come up with something a bit different, or just play short corners. But you get worked out so quickly in the Championship. I don't know the answer on that. It's not as simple as just launching it into the box because I just don't think we have enough. It's not just that you need one focal point in there. You need about 3 or 4.
Yeah, you need disruption as well, don't you, to make space for other people.
Yeah.
And our short corners are poor as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't know, Adam, is the short answer of that one.
Yeah.
A couple more crumbs of comfort, then a couple more questions. James Galt, my fellow Warwickshire alumni, gives the crumb of comfort that Coventry away is on our doorstep. That is if they don't leapfrog us on our way down.
It's a dark thought. You do find yourself. I was thinking, okay, thinking the West Country. Well, there's Bristol Rovers, and I don't know. Mullet's a great friend of mine. I don't know if in the northwest. It's still November. Let's not go there yet. But you do keeping an eye. No, let's not go there.
Oh, sorry. I'll go there once more, and then I'll be it. Simeon Pickup from the Reading, the Tilehurst podcast. Simeon says, crumb of comfort, you probably get to play us next season. Winky smiley face. Yes. Peckham Blue. This is a really interesting one. I got involved in a bit of a debate about this earlier. Are we, as Ipswich fans, being punished for the sins we committed in our previous lives? And I don't know if it's in this thread or if it was another conversation I was having, but someone posted the video from Norwich away when Evans' takeover had been confirmed and we're flashing money and singing the "We're effing loaded" chant. It seems to me that everything since that moment. Any thoughts on that one, Harry?
Karma. I don't know. You do. It's the irrationality. It's like the superstitions we have before games. You do find yourself thinking, was there something I haven't done? I mean, we just follow our football team. We love them, and you care about your friend, the community. You love the people in your world, the other fellow town fans, but you find yourself thinking, was there something I could have done? Objectively, no. But you can't stop thinking about it. You're thinking, oh God, was maybe if I'd gone to Burton away last season, that might have made all the difference. Yeah.
Well, I started when I was a student. I had a 3rd year placement, a year in industry. It was the season when Ipswich. And we got to the playoffs. One of the seasons when we lost to West Ham in the playoffs. I think it might be the first one. And I bought an Ipswich Town tie to wear at work. And I said to myself, I'll wear this tie when we win the playoffs. And I never got to wear it. And to me, that's my albatross, or that is my. I think it's my tie. Maybe I'll burn it. I'll have a ceremony of burial or burning of this tie that appears to it. Yeah, but
that's fantastic.
Yeah, one of those things. I think Peckham Blue. I think things happen in cycles, don't they? Beanie at the Ipswich Bean. At what point does Evans start planning for the now, in his opinion, inevitable drop, or will he stay oblivious to it? Are we thinking it's a little bit early to say it's inevitable? It's looking more likely, isn't it?
It ties in with Mullet's question earlier, actually. I've written down, we must assume in terms of January, because we've got to think about, the transfer window slams open. It never slams open, does it? It slams open.
Doesn't it fling open?
It flings open, yes. In about 4.5 weeks' time. So we must assume that we're going to stay up in terms of what we plan for. But it would be interesting, as I say, to see do we start thinking about the League One squad? Do we start thinking about rebuilding Championship squad? It's we're going to flush Evans out in this January window. We are probably going to flush him out to say, right, okay, are you going to put the resources in place to make us competitive in this league, or are you not? Yeah. It's binary. It really is, and this is his moment of truth to me. And we'll see.
Big moment. One more question. James Beading thinks it's time for us to start praying to the football gods for some divine intervention. That ties into the question. One on personnel from Condor. Can Spence be replaced? I like to see. He wants to see Trev Chalobah at right back and a real ball player in midfield. Scouse, Downs, and Trev are all the same. Thoughts on right back and whether Spence? Ben wasn't particularly good on hot on Spence last night. Joe, I think our friend Joe Fairs was a little bit more sympathetic. But I think the two names that I keep seeing are Chalobah and Spence. So a variation of Condor's question. Any thoughts on whether they might be switched out on Saturday? And if so, by who?
By who?
Or for who?
Yeah, that's the. To be fair, Chalobah didn't impose his personality on the. We talked about this a few minutes ago. He didn't impose his personality on the Bristol game, in the way you would have hoped for. The way Scouse did, for example. The game seemed to pass him by a little bit. It's a question you could argue. Is it But look at who we're playing.
Yeah.
Look at who we're playing on Saturday. You can't. It'd be lovely.
Is that shorthand? Well, it's shorthand for that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, do you put Dazelle in? Do you put Bishop in? Give us some more creativity. But look who you're up against. Again, you need. You're going to have possibly quite Euro bombing forward. You're going to have Scouse tied up with Carvalho. So therefore, you've got to maybe put Chalobah in and just give him a defensive role. I don't know. Possibly Eden could come in. I don't know, but he hasn't played for ages. So dropping him in at the City ground on Saturday would be, is that fair on them? My instinct is that Lambert. It goes back to the old covalent bonds thing. Keeping the team the same means you're building a pattern. You're building relationships. You're building understanding, because that group of players have now played 6 hours on the field together, so they're now getting a sense of who and where everyone is. Yeah, Spence, he is vulnerable. He is being targeted, but this came up in the flagship show. I think Donatien can do that role. I think he's a good right back, but so when Lambert said no, I kind of went, oh, what am I missing? But would you put Donatien in against Joe Lolly? Is the question. There are haves and have-nots in this league, and we're about to come slap bang into two halves.
We shall see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah.
I think I certainly buy into your keeping things consistent to build those partnerships and understanding.
If in doubt, I think that's what you've got to do. I wish. You say, oh yeah, ideally you take him out and put somebody in, but it's risk and opportunity, and you just think the risk is, is it a greater risk leaving Spence in, or changing something and putting someone else in to replace them? And on balance, I would probably leave it as it is and just let them work, just keep working together, and look at what support you can give Spence. Probably would be the thing. See if Chalobah can get across to cover, make sure Edwards gets back, and just gives him some protection.
Yeah, really sensible thought there, Harry. Yeah, really, I endorse that. It's been a little bit of a glass half empty question and answer. Let's try and end on a positive. Your moment of the week.
Right.
Take us to Ireland.
I would do this. I love this. I grew up in South County Dublin, and there's a small village. The next village up from where I grew up is called Ballybrack. Some of you will know where this is going straight away. Ballybrack have a football team which plays in the Leinster Senior League, and it's a gentle moment of non-Ipswich Town mirth to finish the show. This Irish Times story popped up on Wednesday. The Leinster Senior League will meet on Thursday to decide what punishment will be handed to Ballybrack after the club falsely reported the death of one of its players in order to have an away game in Arklow called off at the weekend. Now, Arklow's not that bad a place, really. I wouldn't go. I'm sure they could have gone.
It feels like a punchline. How bad is it?
Exactly. And you haven't seen Ballybrack. The precise whereabouts of Fernando Lafuente were unknown when the story broke, but it can now be confirmed that he's alive and well in Galway, having moved there in September. He previously lived in Dublin, and during that time lined out for Ballybrack. With the Spaniard gone and the team apparently in need of a postponement, someone decided the thing to do was to tell the league that he was dead, the victim of a traffic accident on the way home from training last Thursday. And enter the Leinster Senior League. We get calls from clubs saying that someone connected with the club has died and they need a game called off all the time, and there's never any hassle about it, said the secretary. But things started to unravel when we followed it up on Monday to see if we could get in touch with the lad's family and see if there was anything we could do. Ballybrack said the body was already back in Spain, which didn't really add up. It was a shocking thing to do to get a game of football called off, the spokesman continued. We had a minute's silence at all the other games, and the players wore black armbands. you had to have something wrong with you to do something like that.
Oh man.
Oh dear. So anyway, it goes on. The final punchline. After the news broke, the Ballybrack club secretary resigned by text, but that's as much direct contact as they've had. And then the league spokesman said, "We'll meet on Thursday. One of the first things we have to do is figure out what rules they broke. We've never had anything like this before." So there you go. It's just, everything is desperate. We were discussing beforehand. Maybe could we pretend that there's a town player that who can we kill?
Who should we nominate? Who should we put forward?
We nominate? We can pretend to kill off. It was brilliant. But my sister, I was talking to my family about it back in Ireland. The Dubliners are running with this. There's all sorts of versions of ABBA's song Fernando coming out now as a tribute to the poor undead footballer.
Yes, R.I.P. Oh,
Great
man.
stuff. Great stuff.
Thank you for that, Harry. Yeah, that's a good way to end. Yeah, answers on a tweet who should be put forward for being anonymous for a week. But we'll see what happens on Saturday. Maybe we'll wish we'd have tried to pull that one in 2018 in the world of internet. And never mind. Do you want to quickly do your plugs, Harry? Your blog?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Blog goes up. The full preview goes up on TWTD tomorrow lunchtime with all the formations and the videos. The video of the Aston Villa game will be, the link to it will be up there. Aston Villa do a lovely highlight.
Do yourself a favour and watch it.
It's got full commentary and everything. It's a joy to watch. But that'll be up at lunchtime on TWTD, and I will link it as ever at Harry from Bath on Twitter. You'll be able to find it there.
Fantastic. Thank you, Harry. You can follow me at Ipsrich and our channel at Blue Monday ITFC. Harry, thank you again for all your hard work on Forest. That was really good. And a really good chat. At this time when stuff is tough, it's always good to have a natter and a bit of a laugh and a giggle. So thank you for that story as well. And we'll be back next week to talk, hopefully, I'm not going to say hopefully anymore, Forest and next week's opponent Stoke as well.
Indeed. Have a great weekend, everyone.